You have read the books. You have watched the videos. You have written down your goals and repeated your affirmations and told yourself that this year would finally be the one where everything changes. And yet here you are, still feeling the same invisible weight around money, still stuck in the same patterns, still wondering why nothing has changed despite everything you know. You have tried budgeting. You have tried investing. You have tried saving more, spending less, earning more, hustling harder. And every single time, you end up back in the same place, feeling the same frustration, carrying the same quiet shame that you cannot seem to explain to anyone because on the surface your life might look fine, but underneath you know that something is fundamentally wrong with the way you relate to money. The truth is, the problem was never your knowledge. The problem was never your discipline. The problem was never your income. The problem lives in a part of you that you cannot reach with willpower or logic alone, and unless you understand exactly where it lives and how it operates, you will keep repeating the same financial cycles for the rest of your life regardless of how much you earn or how hard you try. Most people believe that building wealth is a math problem. They think if they just learn the right strategy, find the right investment, follow the right budget, or download the right app, the money will finally stay. But if that were true, every person who has ever read a finance book would be wealthy by now. Every person who downloaded a budgeting app would be financially free. Every person who watched a video on compound interest would have a growing portfolio. The reality is that millions of intelligent, educated, capable people remain broke or financially stuck, not because they lack information, but because their nervous system has been programmed to reject wealth at a biological level. This is not a metaphor. This is not some vague spiritual concept you hear in a meditation class. This is neuroscience. This is your biology working against your ambitions. And once you see it clearly, once you truly understand what has been happening inside your body every time you try to move forward financially, you will never look at your money the same way again. Your brain has a financial thermostat, and it was set before you ever earned your first dollar. Think about what happens when a room gets too hot. The thermostat kicks in and brings the temperature back down to its set point. Your nervous system does the exact same thing with money. The moment your income, your savings, or your net worth rises above what your subconscious mind considers safe or normal, your body initiates a series of self-sabotaging behaviors designed to bring you back to your baseline. You overspend without thinking. You make an impulsive investment that wipes out your gains. You start a conflict that costs you a client or a job. You get sick right before a major financial opportunity. You procrastinate on the one project that would change everything. You find yourself scrolling social media instead of doing the work that would generate revenue. And you do all of this without realizing that it is not laziness. It is not bad luck. It is not a character flaw. It is your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to keep you within the emotional and financial range of what feels familiar, safe, and survivable. If you are watching this and you can already feel a knot forming in your stomach, if you are recognizing yourself in these words, if something is clicking into place that has never clicked before, then you are exactly where you need to be. This channel exists for one reason: to help you see the invisible patterns that control your financial reality and to give you the tools to reprogram them at the root. Not with affirmations. Not with budgeting hacks. Not with another motivational speech that makes you feel good for 3 hours before the old pattern takes over again. If this is the first time you are hearing this kind of content, take a moment right now to subscribe, because what we are about to uncover over the next 45 minutes will fundamentally change how you understand your relationship with money, and the insights in the videos that follow this one go even deeper. There is a nerve inside your body that you have probably never heard of, and it is silently deciding how much money you are allowed to have. Not your skills. Not your effort. Not your strategy. Not your education or your resume or your connections. A nerve. And when this nerve is stuck in a defensive state, when it is chronically locked into a pattern of threat and self-protection that was programmed into your body decades ago, it does not matter how many affirmations you repeat, how many vision boards you build, how many courses you take, or how many books you read about abundance and prosperity. Your body will reject wealth the same way it rejects a virus, automatically, unconsciously, and without your permission or even your awareness that it is happening. If you have ever felt like you do everything right but the money still does not stay, if you have ever noticed that every time things start to improve financially something collapses and pulls you back to where you started, if you have ever wondered why some people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly while you grind and push and sacrifice and still end up in the same financial position year after year, then what you are about to hear is the most important thing anyone has ever explained to you about money. And it has absolutely nothing to do with finance. What you are about to experience in this video is not a lecture. It is not information. It is a practice. A breathing protocol combined with precision affirmations designed to recalibrate the one system in your body that controls whether you can receive and sustain wealth or whether you unconsciously push it away every single time it gets close enough to actually change your life. This is built on neuroscience, on vagus nerve research, on polyvagal theory, and on the real biological mechanism behind what most people vaguely and inaccurately call manifestation without understanding the physiology that makes it work. There is nothing vague or mystical about what we are going to do here. Every breath has a specific neurological function. Every word targets a specific subconscious pattern. Every repetition rewires a specific neural pathway that has been keeping you financially stuck for years or decades. And if you commit to this practice daily for 21 days, you will begin to notice changes that go far beyond your bank account. Your voice will change. Your posture will change. The way you enter a room will change. The way people respond to you in negotiations, in conversations, in moments that matter will change. Opportunities that used to pass you by will start finding you, not because you wished them into existence, but because the signal your body sends to the world will be fundamentally different from the one it has been sending your entire adult life. But I need something from you before we begin, and it is non-negotiable. I need you to stay until the end. Not because I want your watch time, but because the structure of this session is designed as a complete neurological sequence that must be experienced in full to produce lasting change. The first part resets your nervous system from defensive mode into a regulated state. The middle part installs new patterns through guided affirmations that speak directly to the subconscious mind while it is open and receptive. The final part anchors everything into your body so your nervous system remembers this new state tomorrow and the day after and the day after that until it becomes your default operating system around money. If you leave halfway through, you get the activation without the integration, which means your nervous system will crack open momentarily and then snap right back to its old defensive setting within hours, possibly even more defended than before because the opening was never completed. So if you are serious about changing your relationship with money at the deepest level, not temporarily, not superficially, but structurally and permanently, make a decision right now to give yourself this time. Close the other tabs. Put the phone on silent. Tell whoever might interrupt you that you need 45 uninterrupted minutes. And let your body do what it has been waiting to do for years. Let it learn that it is finally safe to receive. Most people think their financial problems are about money. They think if they just earned more, saved better, invested smarter, found the right side hustle, or followed the right guru's strategy, everything would finally change. But there is a reason why 70% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years. There is a reason why people who receive massive raises quietly and unconsciously expand their spending until they are back to the same level of financial stress they had before the raise ever happened. There is a reason why you have tried every strategy, every budget, every system, every app, and you keep ending up in the exact same emotional and financial position as if there were an invisible rubber band attached to your back pulling you to a set point that you cannot seem to escape no matter how far forward you push. The reason is not in your wallet. The reason is not in your income. The reason is not in the economy or the job market or any external circumstance. The reason is in your vagus nerve. And until you address it there, nothing on the outside will change in any lasting way. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your autonomic nervous system. It runs from your brainstem all the way down through your neck, your throat, your heart, your lungs, your diaphragm, and into your abdomen, touching and influencing almost every major organ along the way. It is the primary communication highway between your brain and your body, and it controls something that virtually no financial educator, no money coach, and no investment advisor has ever talked about, which is your biological capacity to tolerate wealth. Not your desire for wealth. Not your conscious intention to have wealth. Your body's actual physiological tolerance for having it, holding it, keeping it, and sustaining it over time without triggering a defensive response that destroys it. When your vagal tone is low, when this nerve is weak, sluggish, or chronically stuck in a defensive pattern that was programmed during childhood, your nervous system operates from a permanent baseline of threat. It reads the world as fundamentally dangerous. It interprets new and unfamiliar situations, even positive ones, as potential losses waiting to happen. It perceives opportunity as risk. It perceives growth as exposure. And it responds to the presence of money, real money, more money than you are accustomed to, as a biological alarm signal that must be neutralized as quickly as possible. This is why you overspend when you start earning more. This is why you freeze when it is time to raise your prices or negotiate a better deal. This is why you sabotage the contract, quit the project, start the argument, develop the mysterious illness, or simply shut down and become paralyzed by indecision right when everything in your external world starts to align for the breakthrough you have been working toward. Your body is not broken. Your character is not flawed. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do by your earliest experiences, which is to bring you back to the level of financial reality that your body has determined is survivable based on everything it witnessed and absorbed before you were old enough to choose. The training happened in theta state, between the ages of 0 and 7, when your brain was absorbing every signal in your environment directly into your subconscious without any conscious filter, without any ability to question or evaluate or reject what was being installed. If money created tension in your household, your nervous system recorded that money equals danger. If your caregivers expressed shame, guilt, anxiety, resentment, or open conflict around financial topics, your body encoded those emotional states as survival rules that now govern your financial behavior from beneath the surface of your awareness, overriding every positive intention, every strategic plan, every budgeting system you try to implement. The conscious mind processes roughly 40 bits of information per second. The subconscious processes over 40 million. You have been trying to win an impossible war with the wrong weapons. What you need is not more financial information. What you need is a way to reach the level where the real programming lives and rewrite it through the body. That is exactly what this practice does. Before we begin the breathing protocol, you need to understand with precision exactly what you are about to activate inside your body, because this is not a generic relaxation exercise that you could find in any meditation app. This is a targeted neurological intervention on your autonomic nervous system designed specifically to change how your body relates to money, and when you understand the mechanism behind it, you will practice it with a level of conscious intention that multiplies its power exponentially compared to doing it mindlessly. There are two physiological markers that determine whether your nervous system will allow you to build wealth or keep sabotaging it every time you get close. The first is vagal tone. Think of vagal tone as the functional quality, the strength and flexibility, of your vagus nerve. It is a measure of how quickly and effectively your body can shift from a state of stress activation back to a state of calm, grounded regulation. When vagal tone is low, the body stays chronically stuck in defensive mode. It overreacts to pressure. It takes far too long to recover from stressful events. It reads emotional intensity as mortal danger, and it cannot tell the difference between a genuine survival threat and a financial opportunity that simply feels unfamiliar because it exceeds the range of what the nervous system considers normal. A person with low vagal tone might genuinely and desperately want to succeed financially, but in the critical moment, the moment that actually matters, the body retracts. The voice tightens and loses authority. The breath shortens and becomes shallow. The posture closes inward. The mind confuses excitement with panic and opportunity with exposure. And without realizing any of this is happening, that person pushes away the very thing they were trying to attract, then blames themselves for being unlucky, undisciplined, or unworthy. When vagal tone is high, the opposite unfolds. There is flexibility. There is presence. There is the capacity to hold intense pressure without collapsing internally, to receive genuinely good news without immediately bracing for catastrophe, to sit in a high-stakes negotiation and feel steady and clear rather than desperate and reactive. High vagal tone does not mean you never feel stress. It means your body has learned how to move through stress rapidly and return to a centered, regulated state, which is arguably the single most important biological capacity for anyone who wants to build, hold, and grow real wealth over the course of a lifetime. The second marker is heart rate variability, which is the natural, healthy variation in the time interval between each of your heartbeats. This variation is not a sign of disorder. It is a sign of adaptability, of a nervous system that is responsive and resilient rather than rigid and reactive. A healthy system does not beat like a metronome locked into one fixed rhythm. It adjusts constantly, modulating its output to match the demands and opportunities of each moment. High heart rate variability is consistently associated with better emotional regulation, greater resilience under extreme pressure, faster recovery from adversity, clearer thinking during complex decisions, and significantly better performance in high-stakes environments. In elite military training, in Olympic preparation, in the highest levels of athletic and cognitive performance, heart rate variability is one of the most closely monitored markers because it predicts who can sustain excellence under conditions that would cause most people to collapse. And these peak performers are not the ones with the most raw willpower or the most aggressive mentality. They are the people whose nervous systems have been trained to process intensity as data, as information to respond to, rather than as an existential threat to survive. Now apply this understanding directly to your financial life. Imagine the big opportunity finally arrives. The client says yes. The investment pays off. The promotion comes through. The business starts generating real revenue. But instead of your body opening to receive and integrate that expansion, your system fires a silent internal alarm. You tighten where you should soften. You contract where you should expand. You start manufacturing worst-case scenarios. You make a rash impulsive decision that neutralizes the gain. That is not bad luck and it is not a character flaw. That is low vagal tone combined with low heart rate variability, creating an automatic nervous system response that treats the presence of wealth as a biological threat to be eliminated. The protocol you are about to learn directly addresses and improves both of these markers with every single session you complete. If you have glaucoma, high blood pressure, a history of psychosis or schizophrenia, or if you are pregnant, do not perform the cycles with breath retention. Simply breathe continuously, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose or mouth, whichever feels most comfortable for you. All the benefits of vagal activation are still accessible without retention. If you have any doubts about your health condition, please consult your doctor before practicing. Now we begin the practice itself. This protocol takes 4 minutes and it contains 4 breathing cycles. Each cycle includes 3 elements that most breathing exercises and guided meditations completely leave out, and these missing elements are the reason those other practices have not produced the financial shifts you were hoping for. The 3 elements are the precise posture of your body, the activation of vagal pathways through specific sounds, and the calibration of internal pressure through targeted muscular engagement and release. These details transform an ordinary breathing exercise into a direct, measurable intervention on the functional state of your vagus nerve, and they are the difference between temporary relaxation and permanent nervous system reprogramming. First, the posture, and every detail of this matters, so follow it precisely. Sit on the edge of your chair. Not leaning back into support. Not slouching passively. On the forward edge, with your trunk tilted slightly forward toward your knees. Place your feet flat on the ground, positioned slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Rest your elbows on your knees and let your forearms hang. Allow your head to drop slightly forward, as if you have just finished the most exhausting, most intense day of your entire life and you are finally giving yourself permission to stop holding everything together. This position is not arbitrary. The forward lean creates gentle compression in the abdominal cavity, which fundamentally changes how your diaphragm moves during respiration. When the diaphragm shifts its breathing pattern in this way, the vagus nerve, which passes directly through the diaphragm, receives a qualitatively different type of mechanical stimulation than it receives during normal upright breathing. Additionally, this forward-leaning posture activates a response closely related to the mammalian dive reflex, a deeply hardwired biological mechanism that naturally decelerates heart rate and signals the entire autonomic system to downshift from sympathetic activation into parasympathetic regulation. You are not collapsing. You are not giving up. You are strategically positioning your body to extract the maximum possible vagal benefit from every single breath you are about to take. Now the first cycle, the vagal preparation cycle. Begin by exhaling all the air from your lungs. Empty them completely without forcing or straining. Then inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4 seconds, directing the air deliberately into your belly rather than your chest. In this forward-leaning position, you should feel your abdomen pressing outward against your thighs as it fills. Now hold the breath for 7 seconds. During the hold, while the air is suspended in your lungs, swallow once, just once, deliberately and with awareness. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds, producing a low, continuous, resonant humming sound from deep in your throat. The sound does not need to be loud. It needs to be felt, vibrating through your throat and into your chest cavity. Here is why each of these details produces a specific neurological effect. The act of swallowing during breath retention directly activates vagal nerve pathways that run through the pharynx and throat. The low humming sound creates sustained vibration in the vocal cords and the surrounding pharyngeal tissue, which sends a powerful afferent signal up the vagus nerve to the brainstem, communicating unmistakably to the central nervous system that the body is not in immediate danger. Your system receives this message and begins to reorganize its internal priority from defense to regulation. Do this first cycle now with full intention and awareness. Feel what shifts in your neck, in your chest, in the texture and speed of your thoughts. Even if the change is subtle, even if you can barely perceive it, something has already begun to shift at the neurological level. Now the second cycle, the pressure calibration cycle. Maintain the exact same forward-leaning posture. Do not straighten up yet. Exhale fully again, emptying the lungs completely. Then inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. This time, as you draw the breath in, press your tongue firmly and deliberately against the roof of your mouth and hold that pressure throughout the entire inhale. Maintain the tongue pressure as you hold the breath for 7 seconds. During this 7-second hold, add one more element. Gently contract your pelvic floor, the same muscular engagement you would use to stop the flow of urine midstream. No excessive force, no rigid clenching, just enough deliberate activation to feel the engagement radiating from the base of your body upward. Then exhale for 8 seconds with the same low humming sound, and as you release the air, release everything simultaneously. Drop the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Release the pelvic floor completely. Soften the abdomen. Unclench the jaw. Let every point of held tension dissolve at once in a single coordinated release. The tongue pressure activates specific neurological networks connected to cranial nerve regulation and alertness modulation. The pelvic floor contraction creates a grounded sense of containment and controlled activation originating from the very base of the body. And when you release all of it simultaneously on the exhale, your nervous system registers something profoundly important. It learns that activation and tension can exist without constituting a threat. That intensity can be held and then released without the system needing to escalate into full defensive mode. This is genuine nervous system retraining, and this single distinction is what will change your entire financial life. Because your core problem around money has never been that you experience intensity or pressure. Your problem is that your body has been interpreting intensity as existential danger and responding accordingly. This second cycle begins to correct that fundamental error at the biological root where it actually lives. Now we enter the third cycle, and this is where the practice transitions from nervous system regulation into active neurological reprogramming. This is what I call the manifestation coding cycle, and here is the critical difference that separates this practice from everything else you have ever tried. It is not enough to think about what you want. It is not enough to repeat a pleasant sentence about abundance and hope that your subconscious accepts it through sheer repetition. Your nervous system does not respond with its full transformative power to abstract concepts or intellectual ideas about wealth. It responds to what is felt in the body as real. It responds to what is experienced somatically as though it is already occurring in the present moment. It responds to sensation, not to concept, and until you learn to work at the level of sensation, your affirmations will continue to bounce off the surface of a subconscious mind that has already decided they are not true. Before you begin this third cycle, exhale completely. Empty the lungs with slow, deliberate calm. Then inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. As you draw the breath in, bring to your mind a very specific moment, not a vague hope, not a general desire, but a precise, detailed moment in which the thing you most want financially has already happened. Do not imagine yourself wanting it. Do not imagine yourself working toward it. Do not imagine yourself asking the universe or anyone else for it. Imagine yourself in the exact instant of receiving it. The phone call that confirms it. The notification that shows the number. The handshake that seals the deal. The moment of quiet, private realization where you look at your life and you know that something fundamental has changed. But here is the key: do not get attached to the visual details. The essential element is the sensation. What happens in your chest cavity when you stop being in a state of lack and longing and shift into a state of having and receiving? What changes in your throat when the tightness of wanting dissolves into the openness of gratitude? What happens to your breathing pattern when your body stops bracing for disappointment and starts resting in fulfillment? Now hold the breath for 7 seconds. While holding, feel that reality saturating your body as though it is not imagination but memory, as though you are remembering something that has already happened rather than fantasizing about something you hope will happen. And swallow once during the hold. This detail matters enormously because you are neurologically associating the vagal activation signal with an internal somatic experience of safety and security in the presence of abundance. You are teaching your body at the deepest level that receiving is not dangerous. That having more than you currently have does not require the nervous system to shift into high alert. That sustaining the thing you desire does not obligate the body to prepare for punishment or loss. Then exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds with the same low, resonant humming sound. As you release the air, feel the sensation you cultivated during the hold expanding outward from the center of your body into the space around you. Not as empty fantasy or wishful thinking. As coherence. As a stable, regulated signal. As a quality of presence that does not need to announce itself because it communicates through the body's electromagnetic and physiological output in ways that other nervous systems instinctively read and respond to. This is where the real transformation begins, because the central point of this entire practice was never just about visualizing a desired financial outcome. The central point is training your body to remain open, regulated, and receptive when that outcome actually starts to approach your life instead of slamming shut the moment real change gets close enough to feel threatening. Now the fourth and final cycle, the integration and anchoring cycle. Exhale fully one last time. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. This time you do not need to visualize anything specific. Simply enter the movement of the breath with total present moment awareness. Hold for 7 seconds. During the hold, engage all 3 elements simultaneously, press the tongue firmly against the roof of the mouth, gently contract the pelvic floor, and swallow once. Remain fully present without excessive muscular effort, without unnecessary tension, just clean neurological precision and deliberate engagement. Then exhale for 8 seconds with the humming sound, releasing everything at once in a single coordinated letting go. Tongue. Pelvic floor. Facial muscles. Abdomen. Jaw. Let the air leave your body as though you are closing and completing an internal electrical circuit, finalizing a sequence of signals that your nervous system will now store as a practiced, intentional, repeatable state rather than a random accidental fluctuation. This fourth cycle serves as the anchor, the biological bookmark, the neurological seal that tells your autonomic system this new configuration was not noise, was not accident, was not a momentary deviation. It was practiced. It was installed. It was repeated with full conscious intention. When you finish, do not jump up. Straighten your spine slowly. Open your eyes with unhurried calm. And notice what you feel in your body right now compared to when you pressed play on this video. In your chest. In your throat. In your hands. In the quality of silence inside your mind. Perhaps warmth radiating through your torso. Perhaps a light tingling in your fingers or the surface of your skin. Perhaps a sense of internal spaciousness that was not there before, as though someone opened a window in a room that had been sealed shut for decades. That is not your imagination creating a pleasant fiction. That is measurable physiology. That is your autonomic nervous system exiting a chronic pattern of constriction and defense and entering, perhaps for the first time in relation to money, a state of genuine openness and availability. Now that your nervous system is in a genuinely regulated state, now that the vagus nerve has been activated through a precise sequence designed to shift your autonomic baseline from defense to reception, we enter the most powerful phase of this entire practice. The affirmations you are about to hear are not generic positive statements copied from a list on the internet. They are specifically constructed to interface with the subconscious mind while the nervous system is in the exact state of openness that the breathing protocol has created. This is not positive thinking. This is not wishful repetition. This is the installation of new neurological code into a system that is finally, perhaps for the first time in your life, physiologically ready to receive and integrate it rather than automatically rejecting it as a threat to its established programming. Breathe naturally now. Let each sentence land not just in your ears but in the tissue of your body. Do not force yourself to believe anything. Simply allow the words to enter the space that has been opened. Your subconscious will do the rest. I am safe in the presence of money. My body is learning, right now, in this moment, that having money is not a threat to my survival or my identity or my relationships. I release the ancient pattern that taught me wealth was dangerous. I release the program that was installed in me before I could speak, before I could choose, before I could evaluate whether it was true. Every cell in my body is receiving a new signal, a signal that says abundance is safe and that I am allowed to exist in a state of financial security without waiting for catastrophe. I do not need to push money away in order to feel protected. I do not need to spend compulsively in order to regulate the anxiety that the presence of money triggers in my body. My nervous system is expanding its capacity to hold wealth the same way a muscle expands its capacity to hold weight, through gradual, consistent, intentional practice. I am allowed to receive without guilt. I am allowed to keep what I receive without shame. I am allowed to grow my wealth without apologizing for it, without minimizing it, without hiding it from people I love because some part of me learned that visible success creates envy or resentment or abandonment. The part of me that used to panic every time things got better, the part that would engineer a crisis or a conflict or an impulsive purchase to bring me back to a level of financial reality that felt familiar and therefore safe, that part is calming down now. Not because I am suppressing it. Not because I am overriding it with force. But because I am showing it, through the direct experience of this regulated body and these deliberate words, that there is another way to be in the presence of wealth. A way that does not require defense. A way that does not require running. A way that does not require shutting down. I release the survival strategy that made me sabotage my own financial progress to stay safe. I release the inherited belief that wanting more makes me greedy or ungrateful or disconnected from the people who have less. I release the unconscious pattern that linked financial growth to the loss of love, to the loss of belonging, to the loss of identity. I am worthy of receiving and I am capable of sustaining what I receive. I am learning, breath by breath, session by session, day by day, to stay open when abundance arrives instead of slamming the door shut because my body once learned that open doors were dangerous. My nervous system is actively rewiring itself in this moment. Every breath I take in this regulated state is reinforcing the new pattern and weakening the old one. I am not forcing change through willpower. I am allowing my body to discover, through its own direct experience, that it is genuinely safe to have more than it has ever had before. And it is safe. And I am ready. And this is real. I am becoming someone who holds wealth as naturally and effortlessly as I hold breath in my lungs, knowing with total certainty that when I release it, there will always be more. Not someone who chases money with the frantic energy of someone who believes it is scarce and fleeting. Not someone who hoards it with the rigid terror of someone who believes it could disappear at any moment and never return. Someone who holds it with the quiet, grounded confidence of a person whose nervous system has been trained to know that abundance is not a temporary accident but a sustainable state. Money flows to me because I am no longer unconsciously blocking it with a nervous system stuck in chronic defense. Money stays with me because my body no longer interprets its presence as a signal that something terrible is about to happen, that I am about to lose everything, that I need to get rid of it before the crash that my childhood taught me always follows the good times. I am expanding my financial capacity one breath at a time, one practice at a time, one day of consistent commitment at a time. I do not need to force this transformation. I do not need to rush it or pressure myself or set an arbitrary deadline that would only recreate the stress patterns I am trying to dissolve. I am not behind schedule. I am not broken beyond repair. I am not starting from zero no matter what my bank account currently shows. I am starting from awareness, from understanding, from a depth of self-knowledge that most people will never reach because they never stop long enough to look beneath the surface of their financial behavior and ask why it keeps repeating. And awareness, true embodied neurological awareness of the kind you are developing through this practice, is the most powerful starting point that exists for any lasting change in any domain of human life. I am reprogramming decades of unconscious financial conditioning in real time with every session I complete. Every time I return to this practice, the old survival pattern weakens by a measurable degree and the new pattern of openness, regulation, and receptivity strengthens. My subconscious mind is receiving new operating instructions through the only channel it fully trusts, which is the direct felt experience of the body, and it is integrating those instructions into its foundational programming. I can feel the shift happening. I can feel it in the quality of my breathing when I think about my financial situation. I can feel it in the way my chest remains softer and more open than it used to be when I contemplate my financial future. I can feel it in the decreasing intensity of the anxiety that once accompanied every financial thought and every financial decision I had to make. I am not the same person who started this practice. Something has already shifted at a level deeper than thought, deeper than intention, deeper than any strategy could reach. And I am going to protect and amplify this shift by returning to this practice tomorrow and doing it again. Because repetition is not tedious obligation. Repetition is the mechanism through which the nervous system learns. Repetition is how new neural pathways transition from fragile and tentative to robust and automatic. Repetition is how I systematically overwrite a program that took decades to install with a new program that serves who I actually am and what I actually want for my life. I attract money not through desperation, not through force, not through manipulation, but through coherence. Through the stable, regulated, trustworthy signal that my body emits when my vagus nerve is functioning at a high level. People trust me because my presence communicates safety and stability. Opportunities find me because I am no longer unconsciously radiating the neurological frequency of someone who is terrified of receiving what they asked for. I stand in my worth quietly and completely. I do not need to prove my value through exhaustion. I do not need to justify my prices through apologetic over-explanation. I do not need external validation to know that what I offer and who I am has real, substantial, undeniable worth. My bank account is beginning to reflect that worth because I have finally stopped unconsciously sabotaging the reflection. Money comes to me through expected and unexpected channels, and I do not need to control every pathway or predict every source or understand every mechanism through which abundance enters my life. I only need to remain open, regulated, available, and trusting that when my nervous system is functioning in a state of vagal safety rather than chronic vagal defense, the opportunities and resources that align with my growth will find their way to me through channels I could never have predicted or manufactured through sheer effort alone. My income is growing because I am growing internally in ways that are far more important than any external metric could ever capture. My capacity to earn is expanding because my capacity to receive without flinching, without recoiling, without immediately preparing for the inevitable loss that my old programming told me always follows gain, is expanding every single day that I practice this protocol. I am releasing the deeply embedded belief that I must work harder, sacrifice more, and push beyond my physical and emotional limits in order to deserve financial growth. I am releasing the generational pattern that says money only arrives through suffering and that anyone who earns without visible struggle must be doing something wrong or taking something from someone else. I am releasing the program that forced me to choose between wealth and well-being, between financial success and physical health, between earning power and the quality of my closest relationships. Wealth and well-being are not opposites competing for the same limited space in my life. They are natural partners that reinforce and amplify each other when the nervous system is regulated enough to hold both simultaneously without deciding that one must be sacrificed for the other to survive. I am a magnet for prosperity not because I have repeated a magical phrase a sufficient number of times but because my nervous system has been systematically retrained through deliberate daily practice to allow prosperity to arrive, to stay, and to compound without triggering the self-destructive behaviors that used to neutralize every financial gain within weeks or months of receiving it. The money that comes to me now does not vanish through unconscious impulsive spending that serves no purpose except to regulate anxiety. It does not disappear through self-sabotaging decisions that I engineer without awareness to return myself to a familiar baseline of financial struggle. It does not drain away through conflicts and crises that my nervous system unconsciously manufactures to eliminate the threat of unfamiliar abundance. The money stays because I have made my body, my nervous system, my deepest physiological programming, a safe and stable container for it. My finances are improving beyond what my old programming once told me was possible for someone like me, and I am at peace with that improvement, genuinely at peace, not performing peace while internally bracing for the correction that used to always come. I am free to replace my old programming concerning money with new patterns that serve who I am right now rather than who I needed to be as a child in a household where money meant something threatening. I am free to believe that abundance is available to me without requiring me to take it from someone else or to sacrifice my integrity or my identity to obtain it. I am free to receive money joyfully and to spend it wisely and to invest it courageously and to give it generously from a place of genuine overflow rather than obligatory depletion. Money is energy, and I am learning to let that energy flow through my life with ease, with purpose, with deep gratitude, and with an unshakable inner security that no external fluctuation can destabilize because it is built not on circumstance but on the functional state of my own nervous system. I create wealth through alignment, not through force. I create wealth through regulated action taken from a state of clarity, not through desperate hustle driven by the terror of scarcity. I create wealth through the coherent physiological signal that my body sends into every room I enter, every conversation I engage in, every negotiation I sit in, every decision I make with the full capacity of my prefrontal cortex online and available because my vagus nerve is no longer hijacking my cognition with false alarms. Take one more deep breath now. Inhale slowly through the nose. Fill the belly completely. Hold for just a moment at the top of the breath, feeling the fullness. And exhale with that low, resonant humming sound one final time, letting everything you have experienced over the past 45 minutes settle into your body like water settling into earth, finding its natural level, filling every available space, becoming part of the ground itself. Now feel where you are right now compared to where you were when this video began. Notice the difference in your chest, in your shoulders, in the quality of the silence between your thoughts, in the speed at which your mind is moving, in the texture of the space between your heartbeats. This is not your imagination constructing a pleasant fiction to reward you for sitting still. This is measurable neurophysiology. This is your vagus nerve communicating a fundamentally different state to every organ in your body. This is your autonomic nervous system recognizing, perhaps for the very first time in the context of financial awareness, that it is possible to hold money in your mind and feel calm simultaneously. That it is possible to desire more and not be punished by guilt. That it is possible to receive without bracing for the inevitable retribution that your childhood programming insisted would always follow. What you just experienced is not a one-time event that will fade by tomorrow morning. It is the beginning of a daily practice that will compound over time in ways that will genuinely astonish you. Not because of magic or mystical forces or the secret wishes of a benevolent universe. Because of neuroscience. Because of the documented, measurable, replicable effects of vagal nerve stimulation on autonomic regulation, emotional resilience, cognitive function, and interpersonal signaling. Every time you repeat this complete protocol, your vagal tone increases by a measurable increment. Your heart rate variability improves by a measurable increment. Your nervous system's window of tolerance around financial situations, around abundance, around receiving, around the unfamiliar experience of things actually going well, expands by a measurable increment. And these increments accumulate in the same way that compound interest accumulates, silently, invisibly, and then suddenly and undeniably. After 7 consistent days, you will notice that your baseline anxiety around money has decreased in a way that feels surprising and almost suspicious because it happened without struggle. After 21 days, you will notice that your body responds measurably differently in situations that used to trigger immediate panic or complete emotional shutdown. After 60 days, people in your life will begin to comment that something about you has changed. They will not be able to articulate precisely what it is, but they will feel it because their own nervous systems are reading the new signal that yours is broadcasting. Use this protocol once every single day for 21 days without negotiation, without exception, without waiting for a day when you feel motivated or inspired, because motivation is irrelevant to nervous system reprogramming. The nervous system changes through repetition regardless of your emotional state at the start of the practice. The optimal time is morning, before the reactive stress of your day has had a chance to activate your old defensive patterns, before you have checked your phone, before you have entered the habitual loop that most people mistake for their actual conscious life. But you can also deploy it strategically before any high-stakes situation where your old nervous system patterns would normally hijack your behavior. Before a negotiation. Before a pitch. Before a difficult financial conversation. Before making an investment decision that your old programming would have caused you to avoid out of pure biological fear disguised as rational caution. The goal in those moments is not relaxation. The goal is to enter the situation with a fundamentally different body. A body whose vagus nerve is active and toned.